We've been bringing you a series of Thor stories by Jason Aaron, and this is the last one in that series. Another truly epic tale and one of my favorite Thor storylines. I hope you guys enjoy, and if you missed it, click the link right here or down below wherever I end up putting it. That'll bring you to the Thor playlist. Enjoy. In our last video, we watched as the dark elf Malekith clawed his way from Niflheim to unleash his wrath across the 9 realms. To combat this, the Congress of Worlds put together the League of Realms, led by none other than the Prince of Asgard himself, Thor. In the end, though, Malekith succeeded in becoming the Dark Elf King, leaving Thor and his team helpless about what's to come. Now, out in the deep reaches of space, Thor looks upon those that were easy enough to find. The dead worlds. Worlds that were once teeming with life but are now either burned or frozen, flooded or dry as a grave. Battles between the armies is something that Thor understands, but who do you fight when it's the world itself killing its people? The Earth is dying, and the God of Thunder knows not who to smite in order to save it. Over in the Southern Ocean, Agent Rosalind Solomon investigates a recent disturbance with a herd of blue whales who seem to be running away from something. As she dives into the water, she finds the cause: the Yashida Industries underwater whaling fleet. Rosalind radios over one of the subs telling them that their presence in these waters are a violation of international law, so surface and prepare to be boarded. The sub doesn't respond by radio and instead fires 2 torpedoes at Rosalind's car. Next, a harpoon is shot into the car's windshield, and Rosalind quickly ejects before she can be trapped inside. Agent Coulson radios in telling her that backup will arrive in 3 minutes, but now get to personnel. She may want to call her boyfriend. Rosalind asks, "Boyfriend? Thor? He just came with me to the SHIELD Cadets Ball. We're not dating!" And at that moment, Mjolnir shoots down into the water, destroying the 2 whaling subs. Rosalind says that she only sees a hammer. Where's the rest of him? And Coulson tells her 30 miles up and closing. Suddenly, there's a giant splash, and Thor grabs the hammer, bashing it into another sub, shouting, "Have at thee, foul Leviathan!" Coulson then radios back, stating that once they're finished down there's something that he'd like her to take a look at when she's topside. Later, in the Glacier Bay National Park of Alaska, CEO Roxxon Dario Agger holds a conference telling the new individuals that they are here today to show them something that can make the world a better place. Global warming has become an issue, and the glaciers are all over the planet and melting away at an alarming rate. As Dario goes on, a helicopter flies over, lowering a large chunk of ice, and once it's set on the stand, Dario tells them that this is what they've been gathered here today to see. This big, blue, beautiful chunk of ice is the end of their problems. It was chiseled out of one of Jupiter's moons, and there is plenty more where that came from. As Dario goes to make a toast, Rosalind walks up telling him congratulations. He managed to make even a simple glass of water ostentatious. Dario tells the crowd to pardon him for a few moments, but please enjoy the water. He turns to Rosalind and he tells her that he's going to assume that she's Agent Rosalind Solomon from SHIELD, correct? Rosalind explains that they know about his ozone depletion project and the greenhouse gas satellites and the mobile factories that even Latverian government is calling toxic. Now he's trying to profit off the effects of global warming by having a fancy space ice. Dario laughs, stating that all they're trying to do is give the people of today what they need to survive tomorrow. Roxxon is the world's wealthiest and most powerful supercorporation. If they don't know what's best for the people of this planet, dare he ask, who does? Just then, the people begin to hear a low, rumbling thunder, and Thor appears with a giant ice boulder, stating, "I heard the people of Midgard needed frozen water. Will this suffice?" The reporters in the crowd run over and they surround Thor, asking where he got the ice from, and he tells them just to consider it a generous donation from his old friends, who happen to be frost giants. Then Thor turns to Rosalind, asking, "I brought you the largest mountain in all of Jotunheim. Might that finally be enough to win your company for the evening?" Rosalind tells him that now is probably not the time, and Dario steps down, stating, "What an unexpected pleasure. My name is Dario Agger, CEO of Roxxon Energy. It's so rare that someone in my line of work would get to shake hands with a relative equal." Thor turns to Rosalind and asks, "Is this the villain that you spoke of? The one who seeks to poison Midgard for financial gain?" Rosalind tells him, "Yeah, one of the biggest. Think of him as Dr. Doom of corporate scumbags. His nickname back in business school was the Minotaur." Dario says, "Let it be known, my company has never been convicted of any wrongdoing by any court in the world." Thor looks at Dario and says, "You, man of Roxxon, mark well my words. Anyone who threatens Midgard will come to know my hammer in ways that they will find most uncomfortable." A few moments later, back at Dario's floating factory, his advisor says that it cost them $478 billion. The ice pipeline project will have to be put on hold. And as a few of the other advisors begin to project losses, Dario shouts at them to get out. If they value their lives, get out. As he says this, his eyes begin to turn red and something in him begins to change and back on the ground. Roxxon says that there is one thing that Dario is right about, and that's that they can't touch him. His record is squeaky clean. If Roxxon gets caught breaking the law, they'll just pay to change the law. Thor tells her, there's one thing that you have. That's me. And gods are not bound by laws of man. I have a few ideas. Perhaps you would like to come to Asgard and discuss it over mead. Roxxon says that she has some forms and stuff to do. So how about they just get coffee tomorrow? Thor shouts, "Splendid! On the morrow it is! We shall drink coffee and decide what is best to save the world." But many millennia from now, King Thor sits on the once blue planet, thinking how it used to have such pretty shade. King Thor's granddaughter, Atli, says that it is certainly not very blue anymore, more like crap, actually. And Elisfa says that Atli can be quiet, and says that she is sure that Midgard was quite lovely in its day. Frigg then tells him that Elisfa is right. It's been gone for a very long time. Perhaps coming back here wasn't such a good idea. But King Thor stands up stating that he didn't come back here to feel sorry for himself. Some things are still worth fighting for. Frigg says that with all due respect, the Earth is gone. Its age has passed. Its fate was in a large part its own doing. Then there's a rumble, and as King Thor looks up, he says, "It would seem that I'm not the only old fool looking down at this planet." Galactus appears before the Thor of them and tells them one thing. I hunger. Everyone looks up and Frigg says that Galactus has killed more worlds than anything in the history of the cosmos. She does hope that her grandfather knows what this means, and Atli says, yeah, he should have brought his arm. So Thor says, that blasted thing weighs a ton, hurts my back. Frigg shouts, no. It means that it's time to let go of Midgard. There's nothing left of this world that you once loved. You cannot risk battling against a being as powerful as Galactus. King Thor whispers to his hammer, telling it, take my granddaughters back to Asgard and fetch me my arm. Frigg says, please don't do this, and King Thor tells her, it is already done. The thunder has spoken. King Thor throws Mjolnir with all of his strength, creating a portal and sucking the girls up, and Frigg yells, you can't possibly hope to. But King Thor asks, whoever said that I was going to fight him? You can't fight Galactus with one arm and a hammer, but you can die. And that I could still do. King Thor makes his way down, calling out to Galactus that the King of Asgard would like to have words with thee. Back in the current times, Thor and Loveland finish up their meeting at dinner, and Thor asks, so companies like Roxxon are harming the Earth as we speak? And Loveland tells him that she's working on it, but this is the first time the S.H.I.E.L.D. has ever had an environmental task force. And against Roxxon, they're outmatched. Thor smiles, and Loveland says that that's the smile of someone who's about to get her in trouble. And he asks, how would you like to see how it feels to stand inside of a thundercloud? Later in the skies above South Africa, Thor asks if she's absolutely certain that there's no one inside. Loveland tells him that she scanned it again. The whole place is automated. It's too toxic for anyone to set foot in. So he holds the hammer in the air and the lightning strikes down on the Roxxon facility. A short while later, over on the Roxxon island, Dario asks, what do they mean by no longer there? His advisors explain that there was some sort of anomaly, a localized superstorm, and what's more, the insurance is refusing to pay. They're stating that it was an act of God. Dario then leads his men into the lab, telling them that this means war. Our enemy has drawn the first blood. It is time for us to discuss retaliation strategies. There are many projects here, like these bears, for example. Their jaws and stomachs have been augmented, genetically engineered to gorge themselves to the point of obesity. They won't stop eating until they are fat and dead. The plan is to drop them into the rivers in Canada to begin curtailing the salmon population. Soon, if anyone is to want salmon, they're going to have to buy it from the Roxxon hatchery. Also, there's this button. The hatch opens and fish pour onto the men, spelling certain doom for them. And Dario then opens up the cages for the bears, the ones that will eat those fish until they are engorged. And he shouts, all right, let's get brainstorming. Back in the future, King Thor climbs up a rock, stating, damn my beard, I should have flown up here before sending that blasted hammer away. Once he gets up though, he shouts to Galactus, telling him, I know that you can hear me. Stop being rude. Galactus tells him, you have climbed all this way for nothing. That is, unless you have come to watch your Earth die. King Thor tells him, I did not come here to fight. As you can see, I am unarmed. I have come to talk. Galactus turns his attention towards King Thor and he asks, why do you wish to defend this planet? And King Thor says, it's because it has saved me more times than I can count, and I haven't saved it nearly enough. Galactus goes back to his drill, stating, this planet has defied me more times than I can count. This wretched Earth, it imagined itself so precious, so supremely important. Look at it now. Look what man hath made of the meagerness he was given. All worlds must die. This they all know. And thus, Earth's time is up. Galactus continues digging into the Earth, and King Thor shouts, this is my last warning. Step away and we will find another world for you to dine on. I wish to do you no harm. Galactus tells him, your mind has gone soft. I am done showing you courtesy. You
should have left me to eat in peace.
Just then, Galactus holds out his hand and a devastating blast shoots from his palm, knocking King Thor to the ground. King Thor pulls himself back up, stating, "And you should have killed me when you had the chance." Up in the sky, the armor of the Destroyer and Mjolnir return to King Thor, and once they are set, King Thor shouts, "For Midgard!" But back in the current times, Dario punches out the last bear after eating the other advisors, telling the remaining advisors that, "I like that idea." The advisor says that this place is called Broxton. The next morning, Roxxon trucks begin to make their way into the city. But once again, in the future, during the final hours of the planet Earth, King Thor and Galactus battle. As Galactus has King Thor in his grasp, the king swings Mjolnir, breaking one of Galactus' massive hands. King Thor laughs, stating, "Ha! Even the bones of giants can be broken. And I would know, I've felled an entire race of them." Galactus then takes his other fist, slamming it down on King Thor with a force that literally punches him through the planet and into the moon. The moon cracks and it explodes, and King Thor says, "The bastard just punched me through the earth and broke the moon. I quite liked the moon." Back in the present day, over in Oklahoma, 3 weeks have passed since Thor returned to Midgard. He missed Broxton, and as he arrived, he begins to cough. When he looks around, he sees something that he wished he didn't see. Roxxon has taken over the once quiet city. Thor flies down to see the old buildings are gone, replaced with new Roxxon-owned businesses. And as he takes it all in, Rosalind shouts to him, stating that she's been trying to reach him for weeks. He really needs to get a cell phone. But before he goes and does something, just stop and listen for a second. Still not believing what he is seeing, Rosalind tells Thor that it started a few weeks ago when Roxxon got approval from the state senate to move their flying factories in. Thor begins to say, "This is because of me." And Rosalind says, "Look, I need to be the one to handle this. I'm gonna shut these factories down. We just have to do it the legal way." Some of the townspeople begin to walk up to Thor through the smog, all stating their problems, homes being taken away, nursing homes closed, their water is now polluted. And they ask Thor, "Why is this happening?" Thor grits his teeth and he rockets into the air. Up on Roxxon Island, the sounds of thunder can be heard, and the advisor asks if this was really a good idea. They have over $1 trillion of equipment here. Dario tells him that he carries a hammer. I have a good idea of how he's going to react. And just as Dario thought, Thor comes crashing and destroying everything directly in front of him. As the armies begin to fire on him, he easily takes out the weapons, and Rosalind flies up shouting for him to stop. Thor doesn't respond, and Rosalind pulls out her gun, telling him that if he does not put the tank down, he'll be fighting her. Thor tosses the tank and tells Dario, "Be a fool or a madman. You will end your assault on Broxton at once." Dario asks, "What do you mean assault? I simply made a significant financial investment into Broxton. In fact, in a matter of weeks, I've reinvigorated what was once a small town on the brink of collapse. This is all done as a gesture of goodwill towards you after the awkwardness of our previous encounter." Thor tells him, "If it's money you want, I'll buy Broxton from you. There is enough gold in the vaults of Asgard to satisfy even your greed." Dario whispers, "I don't want your money. At least not until you're on your knees begging me to take it." Thor holds out his hammer, telling him, "I will pay. Whether it be in gold of Uru, the choice is yours." Dario then looks back at the men behind him, stating, "We're done here, wouldn't you say?" One man steps forward, telling him, "Yes, we've seen quite enough." And the man walks to Thor, telling him, "Thor Odinson of Asgard, you've been served." Thor looks at the paper, asking, "What is this?" And Rosalind sighs, stating, "Oh hell, that means they're suing you." The lawyer goes on stating that, "You've never been sued before, so I'm going to explain. Roxxon is not only seeking compensation for the damages that occurred here today, but also the recent destruction of the various facilities. Also, a restraining order has been filed that will prohibit you from coming within 300 yards of any Roxxon facility on the face of Earth, and that includes the town of Broxton." Thor's jaw drops. "This cannot be!" And Dario tells him, "You could go back to fighting goblins and rescuing unicorns, whatever it is you do. But back in the future, the battle between King Thor rages throughout the galaxies. The more that they rage, the more the ground beneath their feet turns to dust. No matter who claims victory in the King Thor versus the Galactus battle, it would appear that the Earth is doomed." As Galactus' giant body falls to the ground, King Thor hurries over, telling him, "Yield! Yieldor!" But King Thor's words trail off as he begins to see the skeletal remains of those that once lived on this lovely planet. Galactus tells him,
"You have failed the Earth before, as you can see. Failed to save those wretched humans from themselves. So tell me how it feels to see this. Tell me if it stings."
Galactus then holds out his hand, releasing a blast so powerful that it could kill even the All-Father. And back in the present, Thor stands in the outskirts of Broxton where the sign that once said, "Neighbor to the gods," now reads, "Where gods fear to tread." As Thor tries to figure out a plan, Dario is continuing his own plans that involve Ulik, the king of the trolls. Though in the future, the destroyed planet would seem to have finally succumbed to Galactus' hunger. The skies crack with lightning and Galactus asks
If he's back for more already. Now that I have feasted, you will find that there is not a man alive who may stand before my might.
The three granddaughters fly down, and Elisif says that it's a good thing that they aren't men, and Frigg shouts, "Girls of Thunder, take him down!" The three waste no time in beating into Galactus, asking where is it that he sent their grandfather. He must also speak quickly before his tongue becomes a bed for their goats. Galactus asks,
"Is that all you seek? Well, very well, little one. I will see to it that you will join Thor, wherever it is that he is dying."
Back in the past, a few more days go by and Rosalind is no closer to finding a solution to stopping Roxxon than she was in the beginning. However, tonight she is investigating recent sinkhole appearances that appear to be mysteriously popping up all over Broxton. She flies down into one and a boulder breaks and it crashes down onto the flying car. Rosalind crawls out stating, "There goes another car. Coulson's going to kill me." And a voice tells her,
"Not likely. Not unless he hurries."
Rosalind looks up and says, you actually, what the hell are you? Ulick tells her,
"We are trolls. What are you?"
Rosalind pulls out her gun, telling them that she is Agent Rosalind from S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're all under arrest. And Ulick laughs, stating,
"Yes, I'm sure we are. Now eat her quickly. Just save me a thigh."
With that, Rosalind loads a magazine into her gun and begins to let off into the trolls. Back in the future, the Goddesses of Thunder also continue their fight. Alisiv is wielding the weapons of her great uncles, Fandel and Hogun. Frigg, feeling the power coursing through her body, swings the hammer Stormbreaker, and Atli uses the great axe Jarnbjorn. They are a match made in Valhalla, or Hell. If there is one thing to note though, it is that Galactus is not the least bit amused by their actions. He shouts at them,
"You are nothing but insects before the might of the World Eater. Fly back to Asgard, little gob bugs."
Frigg pulls back her arm, telling Galactus, "Be careful, for even the tiniest bug can cause a giant to choke." The hammer is thrown down Galactus' throat and Frigg holds out her arm and the hammer returns, ripping and blowing off Galactus' jaw. Atli shouts that is enough, let them kill this bastard already, and Galactus calls to them,
"Many have tried, including your fool of a grandfather. Your withered bones will litter these cosmos from one end to the other, all while Galactus still burns like a billion suns."
But as Galactus begins to release his power many light years away, the Allfather begins to wake up asking, "Where am I?" Once Mjolnir appears before him, King Thor remembers what he is doing. He's saving Earth from Galactus. However, as he takes the strap of the hammer, King Thor flies in the opposite direction of where Earth is. In the present, Dario walks through Broxton, enjoying the recent progress that his company has made when he hears the roars of thunder. Dario walks over to Thor, stating, "You're making this almost too easy. You should have at least brought Daredevil with you as legal counsel." Thor tells him, "You may have lawyers, but I have a hammer. However, if it will end these people's suffering, then I, Thor, will beg this day. How much begging will it take for you to feel like a man?" Dario takes out a device and presses a button, telling him, "I wouldn't know. It's been a very long time since I felt like anything quite so simple as a man." Just then, the floor begins to shake and the ground begins to fall into the sinkhole. Hands reach out and they begin to grab onto Thor and he shouts, asking, "What devilry is this?" Dario begins to walk up in his Minotaur form, telling him, "Never mind. But please continue. I believe the begging was just about to start." Back in the future, King Thor finds what he was looking for, a black hole. At least, back then it was a mere black hole. Now it is something more dark. King Thor takes his hammer and after spinning it, he goes through the darkness and begins to carve a path into it. He flies into the small opening to claim what was once thrown away, never to be touched again. All black, the Necro Sword, the blade that slew a billion gods, the black blade of Gore the Butcher, and the last hope for planet Earth. Back on Earth, the three sisters stand after another attack by Galactus, and Frigg shouts that they're about to die here on this chunk of rock once known as Midgard, and they will die for the Allfather. Alisiv says, "I, for their grandfather Thor," and Atli yells, "To hell with it, for blood and guts and glory, and also for Thor." Galactus stomps on the ground, asking,
"Did I just hear that you're ready to die?"
But before Galactus can land the finishing blow, lightning begins to strike, and Galactus asks,
"How many times do I have to kill these Asgardians?"
Alisiv says, "He's back, isn't he?" And Frigg quietly asks, "What has their grandfather done?" The girls look up into the sky to see the All-Black, the All-Father, the God of Butchers, the Necro-Thor, the Eater of World Eaters. As he comes racing down, he blasts straight into Galactus' torso. Meanwhile, back in the present day, one of the trolls holds Thor still as Ulick punches into his stomach. Thor manages to curse him, telling him, "You will rot in Nastron for this, if I allow you to survive the day." Ulick tells him, "A troll's home is wherever we can carve it, such as it always has been," and then he punches again. Dario calls out to Ulick, "That's enough. It's time to get down to business." Once he readies himself, he charges into Thor, knocking him into cars and anything else in his path. And from the smoke and debris, Dario walks out, dragging Thor, telling the trolls, "Earn your pay, pillage and destroy, murder at will, burn everything to the ground." Ulick shouts to the others in other words, "Brothers, go be trolls." Thor struggles to pull himself up, telling Dario, "You're just another monster. Hired trolls to kill men transformed into a beast with the strength of the Hulk, so that means Dario leans down asking, yes? What does that mean, oh mighty god of thunder? And seconds later, the sound of a thunderous punch can be heard from all across as a body is shot into the air and onto Roxxon Island. Through the smoking body, Dario crashes back to the ground and Thor tells him, that means that I can finally do that. Now the final battle for the two Thors can finally begin as they both begin fighting for their very lives in order to protect the Earth. One in the present day, one in the future. The mighty Thor battling against all the odds to hold the trolls with Dario back, and the King Thor using the dark power that is the Necroblade to unleash a power never once seen. But as true as there is a King Thor in the future, the mighty Thor does prevail, and Dario is stopped for now. As Thor looks up to see his work, he weeps, knowing where his tears fall, nothing will ever grow again until the end of time. The king too sits back to examine his work, finding it surprising that Thor, the king of Asgard, still draws breath and bleeds. But where those drops of god blood fell, the dead rock drinks it deep, and the earth has blood of its own again. The last day of Midgard. It would seem we'll have to wait until another tomorrow. In the wake of the destruction that once was the city of Broxton, a man tells the people how the sickness came, and his name was Asgard. Dario tells the news reporters that if they look around, they can see what happens if they allow the gods to walk the earth. It was their fault that the trolls came, and it's their fault that these attacks happened in the first place. But perhaps, and maybe partly, their faults as well. Trolls and ogres are a normal part of their lives, but it shouldn't be of theirs. So it is time for everyone to gather together to tell these Asgardians to go back to wherever it is that they came from. Days pass since Dario's speech, and She-Hulk Jennifer Walters walks out of the courtroom telling Rosalind that the injunctions for Thor have been lifted, but that's not their biggest problem. What Dario has been feeding the people is working. Congress wants to revoke Asgard's embassy status. Rosalind tells her thanks for letting her know. She's gonna try and speak to Thor now. As she tries to get out of her third car, she asks if it's alright if she parks here. Heimdall tells her that her flying chariot will be safe in Asgard. She has his solemn vow. Rosalind says, okay, cool. Not sure if I should be tipping or something. And then she looks for Thor. Heimdall says that she must follow her ears. The rumbling will direct her where to go. Inside of the halls, more thunder can be heard, and the All-Mother begins to ask if the indoor thunder is really necessary. Thor sits up asking if they voted already, if there's still a chance for the fools to listen to reason. And she tells him that there's a growing unrest in the Nine Realms, as he can already see. Malekith and his Dark Elves continue to scheme from their swamps. Every day there are more worrisome rumblings coming from the land of the Frost Giants, and even some claim to see war bonfires burning once again. Whatever is coming for them, they must face it out there, out where they belong. It is decided. Asgard is leading, and as for the All-Mother, she is commanding him to do his princely duty, or she'll find someone else to carry that hammer. And as his mother, she understands his pain. If there is one thing that she can part on him, it is that sometimes they must let go of the things that they love most. Later, as Rosalind finds Thor, he looks out into the world stating that Roxxon has won. Dario is a murderous monster who consorts with trolls, and yet he walks free. The Congress of Worlds bent to his will, and it's been decided that Asgard must go. Rosalind says, wait, you're leaving Earth? What about Broxton? And Thor tells her that the first time he came to lay eyes upon Midgard, people there still lived in caves and fought one another with sticks and stone. In those days, he only came to make war and revelry, to be worshipped and feared, and above all else to destroy. Its world and its people have changed so much since then, but has he? Down below, the people of Broxton try to clean up their broken town, and a little girl picks up her half-destroyed teddy bear. A glorious light then shines down. Thor, along with some of Asgard's finest, kneel before the people, telling them that they all know that it is a time of hardship, but they humbly ask the favor, may they please be of assistance. As Thor and the others clean, Jane tells them they are here to bury buildings, not people today, remember that. Thor says that these are more than just buildings. When he brought Asgard to this land, there was life, and now Asgard leaves and there is nothing. He did this, and he is not worthy of this world. Jane asks, you're not planning on leaving, right? And he tells her, no, I would never do that. I was hoping that you could. It is more important than ever that someone speak for Midgard and the Congress of Worlds, and I know not a finer candidate. She says it is quite an honor, but she's really not sure that she's qualified to. There's still the cancer treatments. Thor tells her that they have a rainbow bridge that can take her anywhere in the cosmos. And after some thought, she decides that maybe she should go. Meanwhile, across the way, Dario gets ready to leave. Before he gets into his car, Rosalind calls out to him, punching him in the face. The people hold her back, and she shouts that she just wanted him to know that this wasn't over. She will prove what he did here and nail his bullheaded butt to the wall for it. Dario's eyes glow red, and he tells her that she has his word that he will sue her into oblivion for this assault. She storms off, telling him it's a great idea. Too bad he's murdered all of the lawyers. See you around. And so the time for the gods to leave Midgard comes, and Freya tells everyone with their heavy hearts they must leave. However, they must all know this. Lords and ladies of Broxton shall always have gods in their service. So swears Freya, the All-Mother. But rather than leave them with mere promises, please accept these gifts as a token of their eternal gratitude. Gold from the treasures of Asgard, enchanted fruit trees that will bloom for 1,000 years, and a fountain that will never run dry. May the light of the Bifrost shine forever in their skies. As the gods all walk back to Asgard, a little girl from before asks if they're really leaving. They didn't fix the town. Where will they go? That was their home. A voice then calls out stating, "Aye, and may it always be." Thor flies down, placing a giant piece of stone down, and he tells everyone that he will not give back what they've lost. But this may serve as a small token of debt that was owed by Thor and the gods. The little girl looks up at the giant castle, and the little girl asks, she gets to live in that? And Thor tells her, "If you so wish, yes." Roxxon asks Freya, did Thor just rip out a chunk of Asgard and give it away? Can he even do that? She smiles, stating that it is Bill Skirner, greatest of all the halls in Asgard. Roxxon says, okay, right, so whose castle was that? And Freya says that, who do you think it belonged to? It was Thor's. And so the gods of Asgard return once more to the heavens, though far less alone than when they arrived. Just as Earth itself will never be alone, so long as there is thunder in the sky. And back in the future, a new river has been forged, and Frigg asks, what shall they name this one? King Thor tells her Roz, and Atli says Roz, Jane, Steve. What kind of names are those for rivers? King Thor says that they are the unforgettable kind. Now come, children. We have much work to do. We have an entire world to regrow. Elsewhere, though, on a planet once known as Mars, Galactus readies himself to feast on another dead world, one that King Thor has allowed him to have. As he digs into the planet's core, he says
That if it wasn't for that damned black weapon, but at least now the weapon is destroyed.
However, there is something beneath the planet's surface, something dark. And as the darkness overcomes Galactus, he laughs as hard as his hollow face can. For what has just been born was the Butcher of Worlds. And so begins a story for another day. And there you have it, the conclusion to Thor's run by Jason Aaron, the end of the world. Truly one of my favorite Thor storylines, but if you want to know what happens next, go check out Thor Original Sin, where he loses the hammer. Jane Foster takes over, and then follow all the Jane Foster storylines right up to where we're gonna leave you, because now it's time for Odin's son to get his hammer back, and Jane to truly discover what cancer does to you. Still don't know why she didn't just accept a healing mechanism, but whatever. It's time for all of that to come to the head. Click the link to go check out the Thor playlist. I hope you guys enjoy these Jason Aaron storylines, and I'll see you next time right here.